shadows deep, they walk alone. No tears, no despair, just strength shown. Breaking chains from pain and fear, their courage rises loud and clear. This is the true war standing tall. Alcina and Chloe answering the call. They ignite hope in the darkest night, inspiring action shining bright. Rewriting stories, breaking through. Their spirits fierce, pure and true. Chloe's knife, a symbol of her fight. Altina's hope, a guiding light. No more silence, no more tears. They face their past, confront their fears. This is the true war standing tall. Altina and Chloe answering the call. They ignite hope in the darkest night, inspiring action shining bright. Rewriting stories, breaking through. Their spirits fierce, pure and true. No more chains, no more pain. They rise above again and again. Heroes born from the fight, guided by their inner light. The true noir, brave and free. Their legacy for all to see. In shadows deep, they find their way, shining brighter every day.
I review episode 10 of the Japanese anime noir, called The True Noir. A little about this episode. It marks the beginning of the second part of the series, which runs from episode 10 through episode 17. It starts with the True Noir, introducing Chloe, and ends at episode 17, where Chloe reveals to Karika that she is a Great Return, and that Noir has 3 candidates for the Great Return ritual. This episode is also very controversial because of the shootout that occurs later on, which highlights the issue of plot armor, meaning characters survive unrealistic situations. Whenever you create a story or create a project, characters need to be built up properly to survive dangerous circumstances. For example, in Naruto, it's revealed that Naruto gains power-ups from the Nine-Tails Fox whenever he's in danger or anger, making his survival believable. Similarly, in Dragon Ball Z, Goku's power increases through defeating enemies, strong emotions, and challenging battles. So when he becomes Super Saiyan fighting Frieza, it feels earned rather than due to plot armor. In Noir, from the first episode, the characters avoid unrealistic situations through realistic violence and cleverness, rather than supernatural powers. For instance, in episode 7, Karika gains the ability to move faster than the eye can see, roughly 55 miles per hour when moving a foot or two. In episode 9, Mirai, traumatized by Sylvana's character, becomes frozen with fear, something that had never happened before. In episode 10, Karika is shot by a police officer who is so afraid of her that he misses all the bullets, which is a clear example of the bullshit card being played. The series, lacking proper build-up, introduces supernatural abilities without logical explanation. More likely, this is due to the creators running out of ideas for how characters can escape impossible situations and just resorting to it. Episode 10 continues this pattern. It opens at a courthouse, where a figure resembling Lady Justice is holding a large sword and scales. Interestingly, in the U.S., Lady Justice is depicted with a blindfold, symbolizing impartiality. It's unclear whether this references European culture, but the sword could symbolize justice by the sword, implying rule of law by monarchy or authority, like the English crown. The sword also evokes medieval executions, where disobedience will result in death or mutilation, a foreshadowing element that ties into the episode's themes. Having these symbols early on is a clever storytelling device, providing an abstract, symbolic tone rather than focusing solely on characters or scenery. Just as Peckinpah's The Wild Bunch uses close-ups of insects consuming scorpions to set a visceral tone, this opening suggests that Noir is a series considered above the law, wielding absolute power, similar to how criminal organizations may influence local governments. A man named Maurice Rubrick is on trial for corruption and other crimes. The prosecutor mentions that there is also corruption within the police department. The judge dismisses the prosecutor's claims, describing the allegations against Maurice as suspect or hearsay. The show then cuts to a dramatic shot of Maurice, smiling and looking directly at the audience with a big grin, almost as if his wife was giving him the best blowjob last night. I also like that they play the song Tada, because it fits perfectly here. Maurice's smug expression and seeming luck give him a comic relief element, which is rare in this series. He appears to have narrowly escaped trouble once again. He is charged with battery and is about to be moved to court for misdemeanors. The judge dismisses the hearing, refusing to listen to the prosecutor's attempt to reveal a larger issue of government and police corruption. If you look closely, the judge has a book open with French writing, which subtly indicates that Noir is set in France. Unsettling music begins, music that was used earlier in episode 8 during Sylvana's torture and executions, shifting the tone to something darker. Maurice is escorted by police officers inside the courthouse. Mario is dressed as a lawyer or secretary, wearing purple and pantyhose. One thing I appreciate about Noir is the frequent change of outfits, unlike series like Dragon Ball Z, where characters almost wear the same uniform constantly. This helps establish that the characters operate as detectives. They need to dress up, play roles, and remain incognito for their missions. Kirika appears in a blue secretary uniform, with pantyhose and black shoes, definitely out of character for her usual look. Another detail I like is how Kirika's footsteps are emphasized. They're louder than usual, adding to the tense, unsettling atmosphere. At one point, Kirika's intuition activates. She gets a sense that something is wrong. It's visually represented with a red tint and a whooshing wind sound, emphasizing her mental state. This is fitting, as Noir is a psychological drama, and her intuition reflects her awareness of danger, almost as if she sees the world through a red filter, symbolizing danger. The scene then cuts to Mario walking and spotting a person lying on the ground. Only their shoes are visible. She's caught off guard. She looks up and sees Kirika about 20 feet away on the other side of the hallway. They exchange glances, almost implying, "We didn't do this, but we better be ready." They quickly move to block the hallway, aiming their guns. Ironically, this scene is one of the most famous in Noir, often featured in trailers because it clearly shows their partnership. They see that the officers escorting Maurice are dead, stabbed with throwing knives in necks, and Maurice himself is lying in a corner with a knife lodged in his chest, near his heart or lung. The recurring ta-ta-ta song plays again, creating continuity. It's a powerful symbol. Maurice escapes justice in court but is ultimately judged by Noir, a criminal organization that wields more power than the law. A close-up shot of Maurice's hands in handcuffs with a knife in the foreground adds mystery. Who could have thrown such precise knives? The out-of-focus shot of the knife enhances the ambiguity. The close-up of Maurice's hands in cuffs also symbolizes Noir supremacy, how they overruled the court's decisions, embodying their sense of absolute justice. Then the camera shifts focus from blurry to sharp, highlighting the knife. This visual cue signals its importance to the story. Following this, Kirika and Mario discuss what they need to uncover for the rest of the episode. This is a great example of storytelling through items, character reactions, and silence. Show, don't tell, a hallmark of effective storytelling. And it's only 3 minutes into the episode. It's amusing that the streets of Paris are shown, along with a newspaper featuring Maurice's death, and then a cat with white fur and blue eyes running across the street, probably a reused animation from episode 6, serving as a subtle Easter egg for attentive viewers. There's also a scene back at the apartment where Kirika and Mario are discussing who the assassin might be. When Mario is on her laptop, it's revealed that she was paid 6,000 francs for the hit, and she expects another 6,000 francs for killing the judge. Since France now uses the euro, if the assassination occurred in 2025, that would be roughly $13,400. However, since the series is set in 2009, they will be paid around $20,000. Given the targets, the corrupt judge and Maurice, that's a reasonable amount, indicating they're not dealing with highly armed or formidable assassins, but more like skilled professionals. Another interesting point is Mario's confusion about the payment in francs. Considering France's adoption of the euro, it raises questions about how they're getting paid when the clients are unknown or unverified, adding to the mystery. There's a cool shot of her billiard table covered with pictures of corrupt police officers. Great continuity for the upcoming shootout scene later in the episode. It also shows that Mario approaches her work like a detective, researching people and their connections as part of her assassination process. Kirika believes the assassin is a professional, not just some random person with a grudge. Mario mentions that part of their mission is to kill Judge Destin, as the client wants to end police corruption, implying that the judge is the mastermind behind the assassinations. Kirika recalls her intuition at the courthouse, and the scene shows her perception through red and magenta colors, emphasizing her heightened awareness. Mario then suggests, "How about I make us some tea?" Karika responds, Marielle. Marielle replies, I know. This exchange highlights how well they understand each other, almost as if they're sharing the same thoughts. While having coffee, Marielle states, there are only a few people who can pull off a hit like that, but we'll find out who did it soon. I also appreciate how the music of Altina is used here, music that is often associated with scenes of her staying in the background. The director's use of music to connect scenes, establishing that events are interconnected through sound, is a subtle but effective storytelling technique. It's one of the reasons I really enjoy this series. It rewards attentive viewers. At the vineyard, Altina's thoughts are heard. I am always praying, Chloe. I am always praying for you. I pray that you will accomplish your task without mishap. I pray that you will return to me well and whole. This moment effectively shows Altina's mindset. She's deeply consumed by religion. It also raises questions about whether she's genuinely devout or just putting on a facade. Some religious people act overly joyful and excessively happy, which can come off as fake. There's a scene in one of the later episodes where she has a smug look after realizing Chloe has died, making me wonder if she's manipulative, whether she truly follows her faith or is more like the Joker, enjoying chaos and wielding her power to cause turmoil. Meanwhile, Marielle and Karika are walking the streets of Paris, talking to people who might have information about Cell. There's also a shot of Chloe hiding behind a tree. If you look very closely, you can spot her. Marielle speaks to a guy who says, the word on the street is that the one who popped the cop is no other than Noir. That hit is something else. All right, that's Noir for you. I didn't believe it when I heard Noir was taking contracts again. I'm just glad Rubrick got his. I may be a crook, but cops who work both sides of the street are the lowest form of scum. I bet Ruby's up to his neck in brimstone. Serves him right. It's clear that he's drinking from a bottle of alcohol. This character provides some comic relief through his profanity and drunken appearance. Red marks on his face reveal that he's intoxicated as he talks. Additionally, he demonstrates the connections Noir has, showing that they can find the right people to sell information. I think one big missed opportunity in the series is exploring what happens to the informants who work with Noir, those from whom they buy intel. It would be interesting to see how those relationships unfold or what consequences they face. There's a beautiful shot of the Eiffel Tower at night, with swirling yellow lights illuminating the field. This serene scene shifts to Marielle and Karika having dinner, discussing who might have committed the hit. An Easter egg is present. They're eating bread, which references a Daily Bread episode. The candle in the scene might also be a visual callback to episode 7, where Altina prays over a fire with the same yellow-orange glow. At the restaurant, Marielle says, the word on the street is that everybody's saying Noir killed Rubrick. So, are they talking about us or about the person calling themselves Noir? I really like this mystery element because it suggests that there could be multiple groups of assassins around the world claiming the name Noir. The drunk man's comment about Noir picking up hits again is interesting, especially since it's revealed in episode 2 that Noir has been active since the 1970s. It's fascinating how many different stories and rumors circulate about Noir, whether they're factual or just hearsay that viewers have to piece together. I also recall a personal thought from when I was a kid. During a car ride from summer camp, I pondered the series timeline. Since it stated that Noir was active in the 1970s and the series takes place in the 2000s, I wondered, do they reappear every 30 years? The 2000s marked the turn of the millennium. The 1970s was a period of political unrest and the Cold War. The 1940s during World War II, the 1910s with World War I, the 1880s during the Industrial Revolution, and earlier decades like the 1850s and 1820s saw the Caribbean Wars and European colonization, respectively. The 1790s had the French Revolution. It would be intriguing if future series or prequels explored Noir's influence across different eras, each appearing roughly every 30 years. Given that significant world events tend to happen approximately every 3 decades, it adds an interesting layer of historical context to Noir's constant presence. Whatever information emerges about the Soldats or Noir, it's always possible to draw compelling conclusions. Marielle concludes by saying, I don't like the way this wind is blowing. Wind is a powerful symbol in the series, appearing in key scenes and suggesting Altina's ability to summon it in the final episodes. Then she adds, he who sees his own reflection dies. She mentions it might be from Edgar Allan Poe. After some research, I found it references a legend of Narcissus, a Greek mythological character who gazed at his reflection in a pond, neglecting his health, and died. This phrase could symbolize how self-awareness or uncovering the truth leads to downfall, similar to characters transforming as they confront their mysteries, like Marielle and Karika evolving through each case, and their connection to the Noir prophecy and Soldat organizations. Back at their home, they discuss the Soldats' connection to the birth of the Mafia and how both are linked to Noir. There's a striking shot of Karika looking out the window with the warm yellow light inside, symbolic of danger and bad memories. This color symbolism enhances the mood, but the episode begins to drag here, as they repeatedly speculate about the identity of the other Noir assassin, becoming somewhat repetitive. The next scene shows Chloe walking down a Paris street in her green trench coat. She has a flashback of sleeping on Altina's lap, with Altina petting her hair and saying, at last, this day has come. Now everything depends on you, my Chloe. See for yourself and decide. Despite Altina's motherly demeanor, it's clear she's very manipulative. She provides Chloe with purpose and instructions. This makes me think more about the series' themes of religious fanaticism and how it influences Noir. Chloe's entire life seems centered around her belief that she's part of a prophecy, following Altina's every word like a dog seeking guidance. She appears brainwashed throughout the series, which adds depth to her character and her relationship with Altina. This scene cuts to the middle part of the episode, where we see the judge stepping out his car at night. The streetlights cast an amber glow, highlighting danger. Since amber is a faint yellow, it subtly signals caution. He enters his home and notices that a window is open, suggesting someone might be after him. As he moves into his office, he sees Chloe sitting in his chair. Her hair is a striking fuchsia. "Who are you?" he asks. She remains silent. He steps closer and repeats, "I asked you who you are." She responds calmly, "Judge Destin, you have committed many sins, countless sins, actually." He retorts, "And your point?" "Rubric is dead." "You're next," she replies. "And you're the one who killed Rubric?" he asks, visibly tense. She responds with a strange kind of ecstasy. "Yes." She continues, "But honestly, there are others after you as well. I just came to warn you. Noir is after your life." This terrifies him. She presses on, "And Noir will bring death to you. There's no way around it." He reaches for his briefcase with trembling hands, clearly afraid. "Your death is approaching. It's only a matter of time before the war strikes," she says ominously. There's a striking low-angle shot of both of them in his home office. The camera has a slight distortion, giving a wide-angle feel. Neither of them faces the camera directly, which adds a layer of mystery. Noir appears large and imposing in the frame, but Chloe, sitting in the chair, looks smaller, roughly half his size, yet she exudes power. Her calm, assertive tone makes him look more vulnerable, despite his larger stature, emphasizing her dominance in this scene. She then rises from the chair, increasing her physical presence and creating a visual cue of her rising authority. "Just who the hell do you think you are?" he finally asks. The camera then cuts to a close-up of her boots and gradually moves upward. This shot emphasizes her superiority, using scale and camera movement to demonstrate power, a technique often seen in cinema. For example, in The Graduate, scenes are choreographed so that Dustin Hoffman appears smaller when he's being seduced by Mrs. Robinson, visually reinforcing his vulnerability. Similarly, in this episode, the judge feels increasingly powerless as Chloe Noir asserts dominance. The scene is set at night, heightening the mystery and thriller elements, creating an unsettling, shadowy atmosphere, like the bogeyman slipping into the darkness. She replies slowly, a name of an ancient fate. "I am one who inherits that mantle." Then, she disappears as if she's a vampire or Dracula, vanishing into the night behind the curtain, symbolic of her stealth and the darkness of her influence. The nighttime setting and her concealment are masterfully shot, reinforcing the mystery and suspense typical of Noir. Later, Marielle and Karika go down into the sewers for target practice, firing their guns. Marielle remarks, in voice, their deadline is tonight, emphasizing the urgency and stakes of their mission. Back at their apartment, they load and cock their guns. They also mention that if the assassin appears, they'll target him as well. Marielle concludes, "That's our style," indicating that their fight isn't limited to just one opponent. She's implying that the assassin claiming to be Noir is also a target. This sets the stage for a showdown between Chloe and the duo Karika and Marielle. Later, Karika and Marielle walk down a rainy, stormy street. The atmosphere is dense and murky, with clouds overhead. Yuki Kajura's instrumental version of Kara Per Me, a song about bidding farewell, plays softly in the background. I appreciate that the lyrics are not included, as this creates a tension reminiscent of spaghetti westerns, building suspense as characters walk toward an inevitable confrontation. It's similar to scenes in The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly, where Clint Eastwood and the bounty hunters arrive at the graveyard, or Kill Bill, where Uma Thurman walks down the street to the haunting strains of The Ecstasy of Gold. The music's blend of sadness, energy, and emotion, especially with violins, heightens the mood and adds depth to the scene. The episode features many stunning night shots of Paris, which I consider some of the most beautiful in the series, second only to the Taiwan episodes with the cold-blooded killer. The city streets are animated with incredible detail, capturing the noir aesthetic perfectly. So, we get to the controversial library shootout. Yuki Kajura's Salvanos is kicking ass and taking names in the background. The judge gets up from a computer in the court library, and Marielle aims a gun at him. "You did come," he says. Karika aims a gun at him on the other side of his body, so he's completely cornered. He chuckles to himself, and he hears a lot of people running, but you don't see them yet. Instead, you see a lot of police officers aiming guns at them from all the open areas at the top level of the courtroom library, with at least 12 people aiming guns at Noir. The first issue is that, since they're police officers, they would know how to shoot without killing the judge. So, automatically, they're giving up their advantage over Noir. Marie makes a smart-ass remark. Impressive. When it's not part of your job, you can be quite dedicated. He chuckles back and aims a gun at them. "Two-bit assassins. You should learn your place. The likes of you don't even deserve a trial. But before I pass judgment, you're going to tell me who hired you." Marielle and Karika know they're against impossible odds, with 13 guns aimed at them. I also like what the judge is saying, because it's very true. Even though Noir is initiating judgment on behalf of the soldats, this highlights the hypocrisy. The judge sees them as two-bit assassins, killers, scumbags, but he's also a scumbag himself, as are the police officers, who match the pictures in her apartment shown earlier in the episode, revealing their corruption. It's a statement on the hypocrisy of people passing judgment, especially criminals judging other criminals. It's also a commentary on how many believe in the New World Order, where criminal organizations, political groups, religious institutions, and the judicial system all hold varying degrees of power and influence. In this series, it's clear that the most powerful group, political, governmental, and religious, are the soldats, despite Judge Destin's belief that he is the absolute law. Like Batman, Chloe drops behind a police officer and slashes him with a throwing knife. He lets out a blood-curdling scream, then falls off a balcony in front of them. It's revealed that he has a throwing knife lodged in his lung, which surprises the judge and Mario. Mario then escapes and begins killing the corrupt police officers. They could have easily shown all the police officers being astonished and distracted by this, which would have made the scene more believable. For some reason, when they fire at Mario, she goes up the staircase, and bullets are being shot at her after she ascends, indicating a continuity issue there. Another scene involves Mario being grabbed by a police officer, who lifts her in the air. She then knees him in the nuts, shoves him backwards, and he's shot in the back over 5 times by other police officers. When his body falls to the ground, she kills 3 more people. This is unrealistic because if she's not paying attention, why would someone grab her arm? Wouldn't it make more sense for him to shoot her while distracted? Additionally, if he's a police officer who likes to put his hands on women, perhaps with sexual harassment or just thinking it's funny, you need to set that up earlier. His weakness might be that he thinks with his penis, which could have been established earlier in the episode when they're trying to identify the third assassin, Chloe. This could also help break some of the repetitive scenes when they're trying to figure out who the third assassin is. Establishing the police officers' flaws and vices early on would raise the stakes and deepen character development, especially as they fall because of their weaknesses and corruption. Regarding the sound design, they did a lot of research on weapons, recording real guns to enhance realism. The sound design complements Solvin notes beautifully, matching the haunting lyrics and energetic tone of the song. This combination emphasizes how omnipresent, formidable, and haunting the Noir assassins are. In a scene where Chloe looks at a couple of dead bodies, there are no throwing knives on the corpses, which suggests it wasn't Karika or Mario who killed them. I think Chloe is assessing their abilities, judging whether they're capable killers. Before I forget, earlier in the episode, when she tells the judge that Noir is coming after him, I believe she's manipulating him to create a situation where he calls in more backup, making it nearly impossible for Karika, Mario, and herself to succeed. That aligns with what Altina and the soldats believe, that the 3 Noir candidates, Chloe, Karika, and Mario, must undergo impossible assassination trials to ultimately achieve the Great Return ritual at the series' end. It's interesting that Chloe is intentionally raising the danger level for herself and her loved ones. This demonstrates her commitment to her beliefs and her soldat secrecy, placing herself in extreme peril, highlighting themes of religious fanaticism within Noir. There's one police officer left alive, and this is one of the most controversial scenes in the entire series. He fires his gun, then throws out of fear of Noir. He runs away, and then sees one of his friends lying on the ground dead. Karika enters the scene. The officer looks down at his fallen friend with angry eyes, then picks up the dead man's gun, and looks at her with anger for a second. She looks unfazed. He fires at her at least 5 times, missing and just grazing her hair. He fires at least 5 more shots, grazing her hair again, and then she shoots him dead. This is unrealistic because he's a police officer, and he would not be missing like that. He would also be trained to stay calm in situations like this. This is where I believe Noir starts to lean into supernatural violence, because this is just bullshit. I've actually seen a lot of people in my high school anime club comment on how unrealistic this is, and I totally agree. What they could have done instead, they could have established the police officers earlier in the episode. For example, what if this officer was a rookie or someone's friend with no real police training? Maybe they brought him along anyway, and he's not shooting her because he's untrained with weapons, or because he's so scared he can't look her in the eyes. Once again, this could have been resolved if the writers had built these police characters better, thought about their backgrounds, training, or fears. Or, if I were in the writing room, I'd have made it more believable. Judge Destin walks backward, and behind him, Chloe appears. He turns around, looking at her. He says, "It is you again." Chloe responds, "Didn't I tell you that no one would kill you?" She pulls out a knife. He gasps. You hear Solvinos and its guitar solo crescendo, and then fade out. He lets out a blood-curdling scream. After a brief fade to black, Mario turns around, startled by a scream, caught off guard. Meanwhile, Karika has her eyes closed, as if the blood-curdling scream is somehow soothing to her, perhaps establishing her psychotic or apathetic attitude toward human life, or suggesting that all this killing has reawakened some instinctual assassination persona, which we see develop in later episodes. It's unclear if this is a continuity error, but you see the judge lie on the ground, with a throwing knife on top of his tie, when earlier with everyone else it was lodged in their necks. That's bad continuity. Chloe wields a large dagger that she uses for slashing, so it would have made more sense if she had used that on him since he's the final boss. Then, she could have used her throwing knife to mark her kill, adding a bit of visual consistency. Marielle and Karika approach the corpse, aiming their guns at Chloe. Marielle, all right, who are you? Chloe lifts her head slightly from her trench coat. Chloe. Marielle, and you are? Chloe, the true Noir. Marielle is surprised, and Karika's eye movement indicates more certainty or suspicion, perhaps recognizing her as a threat. Marielle's face shows fear and curiosity, eager to uncover the mystery of Noir. Chloe walks over to Marielle and pulls out her knife. Karika aims her gun at Chloe. Karika, if you really want, we can see who's faster. Chloe responds, I'm the true Noir, and walks off into the darkness. I think the reason Chloe aimed her knife at Marielle was to establish her as a formidable threat. It also sets up the later episodes, where the three of them will have to fight out. This moment clearly shows that Karika and Marielle are on one side, and Chloe aligns with Karika and Altina. Karika puts down her gun, but keeps it aimed at Chloe as she disappears into the shadows. I believe she kicks the gun out of frustration, or anger, that Chloe almost killed Marielle. The ending scene, Chloe walking into the shadows, symbolizes her entering a mysterious world that the other two characters will need to solve. The music, featuring enchanting vocals in a different language, adds an eerie tone. The final shot zooms in on Karika, establishing her as the main character of the series, her journey to uncover her mysterious past. Overall, The True Noir is a good episode, but I'd say it's more problematic than balanced. It drags on, especially with the mystery of Chloe, which could have been handled more efficiently. The episode spends a lot of time showcasing Paris, which could have been condensed or split into two parts, one focusing on police corruption, hypocrisy, and the contrast between law enforcement and organized crime. While the shootout was entertaining and the use of solvent notes was appreciated, the episode suffers from a level of supernatural violence. The violence established earlier in the series isn't consistently maintained here, leading to a sense of disbelief. A controversial aspect is Chloe herself. Her weapon, dagger, and throwing knives stands out in a world where characters typically use guns. It raises questions about her effectiveness as an assassin. How can she be darting past gunfire, throwing knives with precision, in a universe where everyone else uses guns? That said, her introduction effectively demonstrates her deadly skill and intimidating presence. She's a pivotal character who guides Marielle and Karika into the deeper mysteries of Noir and the Soldats, an essential part of the series' progression. Another talking point about this episode is that it does feel emotionally heavy like the others. Most episodes evoke care and concern for people Marielle and Karika kill, or because of the trauma bonding and traumatic experiences they endure throughout the series. However, in episode 10, The True Noir, there's none of that. It's really just about figuring out who Chloe is. What makes this episode sad, though, is that as you watch the series, you see how the characters' lives are deeply affected by their circumstances, particularly how Chloe's life was completely shaped by being born into the Soldats and being brainwashed with religious fanaticism her entire life. Yet, there's no feeling of sadness, depression, or heartbreak in this episode. And honestly, that's a good thing. If every episode were filled with constant emotional despair, it would become monotonous and less impactful. So, if I were to pick my top 10 episodes, this one would definitely make the list because it breaks the repetitiveness, even though it has notable flaws. It stands out for its attempt to shift focus and avoid falling into the same emotional patterns, which keeps the series engaging and dynamic.